The rain was merciless that night. Sheets of water pounded the deserted road as Mira huddled beneath the small shelter of the bus stop. Her umbrella had snapped in the wind, leaving her soaked and shivering. Lightning tore across the sky, revealing the empty street for a moment, and then darkness swallowed everything again. Suddenly, a faint sound of footsteps echoed against the wet pavement. A girl appeared through the downpour, holding a bright red umbrella. She was about Mira's age, dressed in a pale white salwar, her face calm, almost glowing beneath the storm. She smiled softly and asked if Mira wanted to share the umbrella until the bus arrived. Relieved, Mira nodded. They stood together, talking over the roar of the storm. The girl's voice was gentle, almost melodic. Mira felt oddly comforted, as if she had known her for years. For a moment, the storm didn't seem so terrifying. But something was strange. The girl never blinked. Drops of rain never seemed to touch her skin. And though the wind howled violently, her umbrella didn't sway an inch. The bus's headlights finally pierced the rain, screeching to a halt in front of them. Mira grabbed her bag and turned to the girl. But the red umbrella was gone. The girl had vanished. Confused, Mira stepped onto the bus and asked the driver, "Where did the other girl?" The driver froze. His eyes widened as he whispered, "You saw her? That girl was struck by lightning here, 10 years ago." Holding a red umbrella. Mira's blood ran cold. She rushed to the window, scanning the empty stop. Lightning flashed. And in the reflection of the glass, she wasn't holding her broken umbrella anymore. It was red. Perfect. Untouched. The next morning, commuters whispered about a body found near the bus stop. A girl, clutching a red umbrella, her face frozen in terror. It was past midnight when the last bus rumbled down the lonely road. Among the few passengers, a young man held the hand of a pale, silent girl sitting beside him. Her head rested against his shoulder, her long hair covering her face. She hadn't spoken a single word. The conductor noticed something unsettling. The girl's grip was stiff, almost lifeless. When he tried to punch their ticket, the boy whispered nervously, "She hasn't spoken since the accident." The bus grew eerily quiet. The only sound was the rain tapping against the roof. Then, a sharp, piercing ringtone broke the silence. Everyone's heads turned toward the girl. Her phone, lying in her lap, was buzzing. On the screen flashed the name Elmo. The conductor frowned. Slowly, he asked, "Shouldn't you answer?" But the boy's face turned pale. His lips trembled. "She can't. She died in that accident. With her parents." The bus jolted violently, lights flickering. The passengers glanced around uneasily. The girl's phone kept ringing, ringing. Finally, the boy answered. A woman's voice, faint and broken, whispered, "Bring her home." Suddenly, the bus shuddered to a stop. The doors flung open on their own. A cold wind swept inside. The girl's head slowly lifted, revealing lifeless white eyes staring at the conductor. When the lights flickered back, the seats were empty. The bus was deserted. Only the phone remained, still glowing with a missed call, "Mom." The next morning, villagers found the bus abandoned in a field. The conductor's body slumped in his seat, a phone clutched tightly in his hands. The night was colder than usual. The streets of the town were empty, swallowed by a thick blanket of fog. At the edge of the road stood a small, lonely bus stop, its flickering yellow bulb fighting against the darkness. Ravi, a 24-year-old student, sat shivering on the bench. He had missed his usual bus, and now he was waiting for the very last one of the night. For a long time, there was silence, just the sound of the wind whistling through the trees. But then, he noticed he wasn't alone. At the far corner of the bench, an old woman sat, her head bent low, her hair covering her face. Ravi hadn't seen her arrive. She didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even seem to breathe. The silence became unbearable. Ravi turned to ask her if she was waiting too. But before he could speak, headlights pierced through the fog. The bus arrived, an old, rusted vehicle, screeching to a halt. Its doors creaked open with a metallic groan. The driver, his face hidden in shadows, tilted his head as if inviting them in. The old woman stood and boarded first. Ravi hesitated but followed, clutching his bag. Inside, his heart sank. The bus was almost full, but the passengers sat unnaturally still. Their heads drooped, faces pale, eyes closed as though asleep, or worse. A wave of cold air swept through the aisle as Ravi found a seat near the window. The bus started moving. The city lights disappeared, and the road outside became unfamiliar. Ravi looked out. There were no shops, no houses, only endless fog. His heart raced. He turned to the passenger beside him, a man in a suit. Slowly, the man's head lifted. His skin was grey, his lips bloodless. His eyes, completely hollow. Ravi stumbled back in fear. Suddenly, the old woman from the stop leaned forward from the seat ahead. Her voice cracked like broken glass. "You shouldn't have boarded this bus." The driver's face came into view in the rearview mirror. Ravi's blood ran cold. The driver had no eyes, only empty sockets glowing faintly red. The bus picked up speed. Ravi tried to scream, but no sound came. The passengers began to stir, their heads turning in unison, faces twisted in silent screams, their eyes blank and lifeless. Their cold hands reached toward him. The bus wasn't on the road anymore, it was moving through the fog itself, floating into endless darkness. Ravi banged on the window, but the glass only reflected his own face. And in that reflection, his skin had turned pale, his eyes were sinking, lifeless, he was becoming one of them. Then, everything went silent. The next morning, people walking past the bus stop saw Ravi. His body sat frozen stiff on the bench, his eyes wide open, clutching a torn bus ticket that read, "One way."